Full story, my psychopath sister framed me, then tried to murder me. Growing up, my sister Emma and I were inseparable. We did everything together, played games, shared secrets, and even created our own secret language. But as we got older, something changed. Emma became distant, and her behavior grew increasingly erratic. It started with small things, like blaming me for her mistakes, but over time, it escalated into something far more sinister. Our parents always favored Emma, despite her troubling behavior. She was the golden child, the straight-A student, the star athlete, the one who could do no wrong. I was the shadow, the one who had to work twice as hard for half the recognition. It wasn't long before I realized that Emma was a master manipulator, and I was her favorite target. The turning point came when Emma decided to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. It all started one summer evening when I was home alone, studying for my finals. Emma burst into the house, breathless and frantic, claiming that someone had broken into her car and stolen her purse. Our parents were out of town, so it was just the two of us. "Help me find it," she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. Despite my misgivings, I couldn't ignore my sister in distress. We spent hours combing through the neighborhood, but there was no sign of her purse. The next day, the police showed up at our doorstep. Emma had filed a report, and to my horror, she had given them my name as the prime suspect. She claimed that she had seen me lurking around her car, acting suspiciously. The evidence was circumstantial at best, but Emma's tearful testimony was enough to make me look guilty. I was arrested, handcuffed, and taken to the police station. The shame and humiliation were unbearable. I tried to explain that I was home studying, but there was no one to corroborate my story. Emma had made sure of that. The police found my fingerprints on her car, but of course they did. We lived in the same house and used each other's cars all the time. Still, it was enough to keep me in custody. While I was locked up, Emma went on a media blitz. She gave tearful interviews, painting herself as the victim of her deranged sister. She spun a tale of jealousy and resentment, claiming that I had always been envious of her success and had finally snaphead. The public ate it up. I became a pariah, while Emma basked in the glow of sympathy and attention. My lawyer, Mr. Thompson, was a kind man who believed in my innocence. He worked tirelessly to gather evidence in my favor. He found security footage from a nearby store that showed Emma buying items with the credit card she claimed was stolen. It was a small victory, but it cast doubt on her story. Still, the damage was done. The media had already branded me as guilty. Then, out of nowhere, things took a darker turn. Mr. Thompson discovered that Emma had been seeing a psychiatrist for years. Her diagnosis? Borderline personality disorder with psychopathic tendencies. This was a bombshell. If we could prove that Emma had a history of lying and manipulating, it could be the key to my freedom. We subpoenaed Emma's psychiatric records, and what we found was shocking. She had a long history of fabricating stories and framing others for her misdeeds. Her own therapist had documented her manipulative behavior, noting that Emma derived pleasure from watching others suffer. This was the break we needed. We presented the evidence in court, and slowly but surely, the tide began to turn. The prosecution's case crumbled under the weight of Emma's lies. The jury saw through her facade, and I was finally acquitted. But my relief was short-lived. Emma's rage knew no bounds. She couldn't stand losing, and she wasn't done with me yet. A few weeks after my release, I received a threatening letter. It was from Emma, promising that she would make me pay for ruining her life. I took it to the police, but they dismissed it as a desperate attempt by a disgraced woman. They couldn't have been more wrong. One night, I came home to find my room ransacked. My laptop, phone, and personal documents were missing. Panic set in as I realized that Emma had been there. She was escalating, and I had no idea what she would do next. I decided to move out and stay with a friend, but Emma was always one step ahead. I started receiving mysterious packages, bloody dolls, dead animals, and notes written in red ink. Each one was more grotesque than the last. I knew it was Emma, but I had no proof. The police couldn't do anything without solid evidence. I was living in a constant state of fear, always looking over my shoulder. Then one day, Emma disappeared. No one had seen or heard from her in weeks. Her car was found abandoned on a remote road, and there were no signs of foul play. I wanted to believe that she had finally given up, but deep down, I knew better. Emma was out there, plotting her next move. Months passed, and life slowly returned to normal. I started therapy to deal with the trauma, and my therapist, Dr. Richards, was a godsend. He helped me process my emotions and regain my sense of safety. I even started dating again, though it was hard to trust anyone after what I had been through. One evening, I was having dinner with my boyfriend, Alex, when my phone buzzed. It was a notification from an unknown number. My heart raced as I opened the message. It was a photo of Emma, smiling and holding today's newspaper. The caption read, "Miss me?" I showed the photo to Alex, who insisted that we go to the police. This time they took it seriously. They launched an investigation and put a protective detail on me. I felt a small measure of relief, but I knew that Emma wouldn't be found until she wanted to be. Weeks later, there was a breakthrough. The police tracked Emma's phone to a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. They raided the room, but Emma was gone. What they found was chilling: a shrine dedicated to me, filled with photos, personal items, and a detailed plan for my abduction. Emma's obsession had reached a terrifying new level. The police urged me to leave town, to start fresh somewhere far away. I reluctantly agreed and moved to a small town several states away. I changed my name, cut ties with everyone I knew, and tried to build a new life. But the fear never left me. Emma was always in the back of my mind, a shadow lurking in the corners of my new life. Years passed, and I gradually found peace. I got married, had kids, and settled into a quiet, happy routine. But one day, as I was picking up my daughter from school, I noticed a familiar face in the crowd. It was Emma, watching me with a sinister smile. My heart stopped. I grabbed my daughter and ran to the car, my mind racing. I called the police, but by the time they arrived, Emma was gone. They assured me that they would find her, but I knew better. Emma was a master at staying hidden. Life became a nightmare once again. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything but the fear that Emma would strike at any moment. My husband tried to comfort me, but there was nothing he could do. Emma had destroyed my sense of security. One night, I woke up to find Emma standing at the foot of my bed, a knife in her hand. She smiled that familiar, chilling smile and whispered, "Miss me?" Before I could react, she lunged at me. I fought back with everything I had, but she was strong, fueled by years of rage and obsession. My husband woke up and tackled Emma, wresting the knife from her hand. We called the police, and this time, they arrived in time to arrest her. Emma was finally taken into custody, her reign of terror at an end. In court, Emma showed no remorse. She laughed as the judge read her sentence: life in prison without the possibility of parole. But even as she was led away, she turned to me and mouthed, "This isn't over. I try to live my life without fear." But Emma's words haunt me. I know she's locked away, but her influence still lingers. I've learned to be cautious, to trust my instincts, and to never underestimate the darkness that can lurk within those we think we know. My story is a cautionary tale, a reminder that not all monsters hide under the bed. Some live among us, wearing the faces of those we love. And sometimes the greatest danger comes not from strangers, but from those closest to us. As the years went by, I tried to rebuild my life. I focused on my family, my career, and creating a safe and loving environment for my children. Emma's shadow still loomed over me, but I refused to let it control my life. I became active in community outreach programs, sharing my story to help others recognize the signs of manipulation and abuse. One day, while volunteering at a local shelter, I met a woman named Sarah who had a similar story. Her sister had also tormented her for years, and she had lived in constant fear. We became fast friends, supporting each other through our shared trauma. Sarah and I decided to start a support group for people who had been victims of familial abuse. It became a sanctuary for many, a place where we could share our experiences and find strength in each other. Years passed, and the support group flourished. We helped countless individuals find their voices and reclaim their lives. I was starting to feel like I was finally making a difference, and the shadow of Emma began to fade. But just when I thought the worst was behind me, a new twist emerged. During a routine meeting of our support group, a new member joined. She was quiet, her face partially hidden by a hat and sunglasses. She introduced herself as Lisa and shared a story strikingly similar to mine. Her tale of a psychopathic sister who had tormented her was chillingly familiar. I felt an uneasy sense of déjà vu as Lisa spoke. Her mannerisms, her voice, it all seemed so familiar. My heart raced as a horrifying realization dawned on me. Could it be? I had to find out. After the meeting, I discreetly approached Lisa, trying to mask my suspicion with friendly concern. "Lisa, your story is so similar to mine," I said. "It's uncanny. Would you mind if we talked more about it?" Lisa hesitated, but then agreed. We went to a nearby cafe, and as we sat down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. I listened intently as she recounted her experiences, every detail confirming my growing suspicion. "Lisa," I finally said, my voice trembling, "I have to ask you something. Do you know someone named Emma?" Her reaction was immediate and telling. Her face hardened, and she leaned back, a slow, sinister smile spreading across her lips. "Oh, sister," she said, her voice dripping with malice. "You always were the smart one." My blood ran cold. It was Emma. Somehow she had escaped from prison and had been living under a false identity, infiltrating my life once again. I felt a surge of panic, but I knew I had to stay calm. "Why, Emma?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "Why can't you just leave me alone?" Emma's eyes gleamed with a madness that chilled me to the bone. "Because I can't," she replied. "Your life was supposed to be mine. You took everything from me, and I will never forgive you for that." I knew I had to get out of there, but I couldn't let Emma know I was onto her. I forced a smile and said, "You're right. Let's talk more about this, but not here. Let's go somewhere private." Emma's smile widened. "Lead the way, sister." We left the cafe, and as we walked, I discreetly dialed 911, keeping the phone hidden in my pocket. I had to lead Emma to a place where the police could intercept her without endangering anyone else. I led her to a secluded park, my heart pounding with every step. When we arrived, I turned to face her, trying to stall for time. "Emma, we need to end this," I said. "It doesn't have to be this way." But Emma was beyond reason. She lunged at me, a knife appearing in her hand. I fought back, but she was relentless. Just as I thought I was about to lose, the police arrived, their sirens blaring. Emma was tackled to the ground and handcuffed, screaming obscenities at me the entire time. As she was taken away, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. Emma was my sister, but she was also a monster who had caused me immeasurable pain. I knew I had done the right thing, but the cost had been high. Emma was sent to a maximum security psychiatric facility where she would remain for the rest of her life. The ordeal had left scars, both physical and emotional, but I was determined to move forward. I continued my work with the support group, finding solace in helping others heal from their own traumas. Life gradually returned to a semblance of normalcy. I watched my children grow, celebrated anniversaries with my husband, and cherished the peaceful moments that had once seemed so elusive. But every now and then, I would catch a glimpse of a shadow or hear a familiar laugh, and I would be reminded of the darkness that had once threatened to consume me. In the end, I learned that true strength comes not from avoiding our fears, but from facing them head on. Emma's influence may have lingered, but it no longer controlled me. I had reclaimed my life, and no matter what the future held, I knew I could face it with courage and resilience. My story is a testament to the power of the human spirit. Despite the darkness that tried to destroy me, I emerged stronger, more determined to live a life of love and light. And though Emma's shadow will always be a part of my past, it no longer defines my future.